ask yourself, how is eating this food going to make me feel about myself or about giving it to my family? And that should be your answer, because you are important enough to consider your own feelings, not about, this isn't about everybody else, okay? Eating healthy, changing up, improving your lifestyle is not just about you and your family's health. It's about, also recognizing that you are important enough to make these changes. So I do recommend just assessing, how is this going to make me feel when I eat it? Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of our 6th season of the MOMables Podcast. Today, I am going to answer some of the questions that have come in from the previous 2 podcasts where I've been talking about eliminating processed foods and added sugars from our family's diet. This can be accomplished so much easier by doing some meal planning and meal prepping. And if you heard the last 2 podcasts, you heard me talk about that a lot. But the reason I spent a lot of time on that is because I don't want you to make you feel like you have to spend an eternity in the kitchen in order to make healthier meals for your family. So in this episode, I'm going to share some personal insights and secrets and my favorite recipes. So let's get started.
Let's jump right in. What is the first step whenever you sit down and do your meal planning?
Okay. So there are some magic questions that I ask myself when I go down to meal plan. The first thing I ask is, what do I want to eat this week? Not what's on sale at the store. It's more like, what do I feel like eating this week? So that's number 1. Number 2, sometimes I even go ask my family, oftentimes like, hey guys, what do you guys want to eat this week? I do this for several reasons, but most importantly is so they feel like they have some input on what we're eating. So like a couple of weeks ago, my daughter's like, hey mom, we really haven't had waffles on breakfast night for a long time. Could you make that on breakfast night? And so I was like, oh, okay. So then everybody was happy, or they felt like they had some input. So obviously if you have, I know I've got kids that eat only mac and cheese. Well, maybe you can either recreate that recipe or go, well, what else? Like what other things? Just sort of get the conversation rolling. So number 1, what do I want to eat this week? Number 2, what do they want to eat this week? Number 3, what ingredients do I want to use up from my freezer? Not anywhere else. The first place I look is the freezer. Why? Because oftentimes we make extras of another meal, or we freeze leftovers, or we even make those freezer meals. And then we forget about them because we get so busy planning new meals that we forget the stuff that we created in order to give ourselves some time and some shortcuts. So the first place I go is the freezer. So I can go like, gosh, I really have a lot of chicken. And so let me use some of that up. And then I'll plan around that chicken. Or now I don't have to go buy chicken. Or I'll go like, oh my gosh, there's a hidden pork loin underneath like the mountains of veggies, or, so just kind of scanning your freezer is really great. Or maybe you're like, oh, this week on Wednesday I've got a meeting late, I've got this going on, I've got that going on. And lo and behold, you're looking at the freezer and you find that freezer meal that you made for just in case a while back to throw into the crock pot. Well, now that is your Wednesday or whatever other night saver, right? So like it's going to save you from buying something processed, spending money out, and it's going to help you eat cleaner and better. So number 3, check your freezer. What do I have in my pantry? That's number 4. So obviously I know you're eating a lot more fresh fruits and vegetables, but our pantry is the place where we go for other staples. So I'll go in there and go, oh my gosh, 2 weeks ago, I got overly zealous and bought all this quinoa because it was on sale. So I'm going to incorporate it for sure this week. And if it's not quinoa, maybe you bought a big bag, like a huge pound, what I think it's like 10 pounds at Costco of like russet potatoes. And they start to grow little things. And you're like, oh, okay, that's because we start planning and we get super excited, but we forget to look. And so if I see that I have a huge bag of potatoes, then I'm going to go like, what can we make this week? Maybe is a breakfast hash on a weekend. You know, you can like just make hash browns or hash potatoes. You could make loaded potatoes or potato salad, or just kind of like throw them in with your roasted vegetables. So again, I only discover that by looking at my pantry. So, and when you look at your pantry, you always kind of, I don't just look, I also kind of look, pull out, and reorganize a little bit. So it's not like this there's a place where like a tornado hit it really quickly every week. So it's kind of like my chance to kind of tidy up a little bit. And then once I kind of look at the freezer, and then I look at the pantry, and then I figure out what I want to eat and what my kids have suggested, then I think about how do I incorporate our needs and wants and what we have into recipes for the following week. So again, maybe you have a lot of potatoes and you're going to go like, you know what, I'm tired of just eating them this way. Let me go look on Pinterest and go, let me search for a potato. Or maybe you had a lot of sweet potatoes. You're like, we have a great sweet potato salad on MOMables, which you could use with regular potatoes as well. Or maybe you're like, maybe I'm going to do X, Y, or Z. So I start by looking at what we have, what everybody wants to eat, and then I incorporate that into a plan. And you could take it a step further if you're shopping on a budget, or you're really looking at your circulars or online sales, and then going, okay, now how do I add in what's on sale at the grocery store so that you can save a little more?
So if we're involving the kids in the meal planning process, what happens when they're requesting forbidden foods like pancakes and things that aren't really allowed on a Whole30?
Yeah, so the first thing, I want to just take a quick step back and say it's really important to eliminate that forbidden foods mentality, because that immediately puts you into a missing out, or I can't have. And we already talked about in previous podcasts about having a really positive attitude when it comes towards the lifestyle goal of eating healthier. So I like to reframe that and not go of forbidden foods, but think of them, keeping it positive and going, what are the things we can have? Or what things can we have less of, is another way to think about it. That's one of the reasons I was adamant in the Kickstart program to make sure that I did recreate recipes with clean and approved ingredients, is because I don't want to think as muffins to be forbidden when a muffin recipe that we have in Kickstart has no added sugars, no dairy, it's low glycemic index. So essentially it's a really wholesome, nutritious, single serve breakfast item, right? So I really worked hard to create recipes that when I recreated some favorites, even like pancakes, that they were made with approved ingredients, but at the same time, they weren't forbidden. Because what are you going to do when something is forbidden? You're going to crave it more. You're going to think about it. It becomes a very difficult process, especially once you have kids, right? Like if you tell my kids they can no longer have pancakes for 30 days, they're going to go, what? I mean, we don't have pancakes every day, but like it's really a tradition on the weekends, but if I just don't say anything, I make cleaner, better pancakes, then no one feels like they're missing out. So that's like what's really important in the Family KickStart program. I also think about ingredient swaps. So instead of something being forbidden, I think about how can I improve this recipe so that it is made with clean and acceptable and nutritious ingredients. So there are a lot of, for example, so definitely you can have pasta in a Whole30 program or Family KickStart, but maybe you can use, veggie spiralized noodles, right? Or zoodles. But a lot of parents are like, yeah, that's great, but my kid does not know that they're veggies and they don't eat zoodles. Well, something we have in the Family KickStart program is 2 levels. I call it like level 1 and level 2. Level 1 is like our hardcore adult program, like us, like you and I would eat zoodles, but only 2 out of my 3 kids will eat zucchini noodles. So I do have a gluten-free option. Like the level 2 is fully gluten-free, because something that a lot of families notice is that while whole grains and wheat is fine for most people, there's a lot of research when you eliminate them from a diet for about 30 days, you really reset a lot of your gastrointestinal flora and like your gut bacteria. So you do a lot of healing when you eliminate some of the inflammatory foods. So back to the pasta. So if your child just absolutely will not eat zoodles, then you can find a substitute like rice noodles. That we have those. So or if your kids really love oatmeal and you're allergic to nuts, we have like a nut-free oatmeal option. So there's a lot of ways that you can think of it as like, how can I make a recipe with better ingredients? How can I improve it? And then I think about finally to include my kids so they eat is, again, what do my kids love to eat besides mac and cheese and nuggets? Okay, so what are some of the other family-centric meals that we just love? And how can I still make those classics with in simple ways? How can I save time? So, but all that comes from talking to my kids and going, what do you guys want to eat this week? And then it's up to me to find alternative recipes.
Totally. Now, you're busy and I'm busy. And part of meal planning is helping to save time in the kitchen and spending a lot less hours cooking. But do you find that it takes longer to prep and plan when you're eating exclusively clean foods than when you're kind of eating anything?
So the reality is that if you want to eat food that is good for you, it takes time to prep and cook. Whether you're doing a Whole30, whether you're eating keto, whether you're eating low fat, or you're eating however it is, and even if you eat like a standard normal diet where from time to time you go out to eat and you eat pizza and you eat everything, real food needs to be cooked. Not just open a box, mix a bunch of ingredients, and there you go. But I like to tell people though, even though if you are currently eating you're relying on mixes and helpers and creams or it takes just as long to mix the ingredients in a casserole and then bake it than it does from gathering the ingredients for a cleaner version, right? You still have to heat and boil pasta. You still have to cook the rice. It's about 20 minutes either way. Unless it's angel hair, then it's 3 to 4 minutes. But let's get real, okay? Like the water still takes us a long time to boil. So real food still needs to be cooked. You can, a lot of parents are like, my kid just wants frozen nuggets and French fries that are both frozen, and they just throw them in a sheet pan and bake them. Well, you can set some time aside and bread your own chicken strips and with approved ingredients, freeze them and have them in the freezer ready to go. So I think at the end of the day, even these cheesy soups and things that we love, it takes just as long to throw them in the slow cooker, no matter the ingredients, as it does for real food. What I want to encourage people to do is kind of take a step back and go and just incorporate more whole ingredients into their meals. And maybe you're like, but just chopping vegetables and washing them and all these things, it takes so much time. Well, they really, there are so many ways that you can create shortcuts.
So speaking of shortcuts, what are your top 5 secret time-saving tips in the kitchen?
Okay, so I love this question because when this question was sent in, I'm like, wait, I just told you. But I think my top secret things is not just the buy a rotisserie chicken. I think that's like the thing everybody hears at this, online, like buy a rotisserie chicken and just use that and save yourself time, or make all this rice. So I wrote these down because I didn't want to forget. I wanted to make sure I stay on track. But some of the things that I do besides those things are, okay, so purchase frozen veggies. Okay, so a lot of recipes will have like cauliflower, or, the thing about vegetables is that they're very interchangeable. So, in most recipes. So just because something says, kale, it doesn't have to be kale. It could be spinach. Or something says, sweet potatoes, you could totally throw in butternut squash. Like, it's as long as like the texture, shape, color, give or take, functions the same, you can just swap it out. So purchase frozen veggies because they're already washed, they're already prepped and chopped. Even if you're doing a roasted vegetable sheet pan dinner, you can throw in frozen veggies. They don't have to be fresh and freshly chopped and all that stuff. So frozen vegetables can also be roasted with no issues. Okay, so that's number one. Another secret tip is to use I use my slow cooker overnight. So I put the stuff in there while I'm sleeping, and I wake up to an amazing house smell, but not like just like overnight oats or something like that. Like, I use my slow cooker to make the next day's dinner overnight, or cook chicken ahead of time, or whatever it is, like stuff that you can prep in the slow cooker. I do it overnight, and then in the morning, as soon as I wake up, I turn it off and I let it cool down. So it's already ready, and then that night I can just ladle it and heat it, or serve it. So the slow cooker, because a lot of people are like, but I go to work and like a recipe is like chicken 4 hours on high. Now what? So 4 hours on high is perfectly acceptable if you're home and sleeping and you just turn it off in the morning, as opposed to you're gone for 10 hours instead of 4. So I use my slow cooker overnight often instead of during the day while I'm gone, because I can control it in the morning. Another tip is, a lot of recipes call for like marinate your chicken or marinate your meat. And everybody's like, oh, but I got so busy, I don't always remember to do it the night before. So I actually marinate my chickens and meats in a zip bag. Obviously, a lot of people do this too. But I freeze it. So I'll marinate it and freeze it, and I'll do like, 3 or 4 pounds of, or 3 or 4 batches, depending on the size of the recipe, of something my family already likes. And then I freeze it. And so when I take it out for the next day, like, number one, I don't have to measure anything. It's already ready to go. But as it thaws out in my refrigerator, it's marinating because the marinade was already there. So it's kind of like double duty. So that saves you time. You can do that with meat as well, or like to tenderize it. Or a lot of people, honestly, they just prep meals like slow cooker freezer meals and then just zip that. But the chicken marinade is like a huge tip because it'll be like very, very juicy. Oh, another one was to cook eggs, like a big batch of eggs, and then heat them up throughout the week. Like, when I tell people, like, yeah, just scramble a bunch of eggs. Like, we all know to hard-boiled eggs for the week, right? But
right.
It's beyond hard-boiling eggs. Like, for breakfast, like, oftentimes my friends are like, I just don't have time to scramble eggs in the morning, or I don't have time to make omelets, or, eggs can be made in bulk. So for my family, I scramble about 18 of them and then heat them up for like the next 4 days. So you can cook eggs and keep them in your refrigerator up to 4 days and you're good to go.
I had no idea. That's amazing.
You guys, if you're listening, it's kind of loud. I'm going to apologize. I'm in the office, not at the sound studio today also, and it's very loud, but I'm trying to work with you. And then the final one, which is another one where a lot of that seems to take time, and also it's the first place to grab a convenience, not so healthy item, is snack time. So something I suggest doing is getting like either a basket, or it could be like a big Tupperware container, or even zip bags, or if your refrigerator has a drawer, to allocate an area for fresh snacks. So you can put things like clementines or cuties, apples, or they already even have pre-sliced apples at the grocery store, cheese sticks, or single serve packs of small baby bell cheeses or yogurts, or whatever you want your kids to have as a snack. You can, or even yourself, hummus single things, carrot bags, or you can either zip bag it yourself or in small containers. So basically are going to allocate a drawer or an area for a basket where you can explain to your family members, hey, at snack time, if you're hungry, grab one portion or grab one serving of this. And then they'll be able to go like, oh, okay. So they're not always going like, Mom, I'm so hungry, but I don't have anything to eat because now, you went out and like threw out everything or something. So that's my last number 5, the snack area.
So with these snack ideas, what are some of your favorite recipes in the Family KickStart program?
So, you know what? We forgot to answer the question that they asked us about whether they should throw out everything in the pantry. Remember that question that you sent me yesterday in an email?
Yes, it was about, looking at the pantry and saying there's a lot here that maybe is
not approved,
packaged already. It's not approved. Do I keep it? Do I not keep it? What do you do?
Yes. So that question, see guys, we're answering your questions. And there's so many that came in. I was like, Paula, make sure we keep track. Okay. So one question was specifically, I'm getting ready to eat cleaner, start a better lifestyle, but I have a bunch of stuff and snacks that are just not approved in my pantry. What do I do? A lot of times people suggest just throw it all out and start fresh. Or other people are like, donate, and then they don't donate fresh thing, So I often suggest having a realistic timeline to get started. So it's really great to be very excited. A lot of families do this. They'll purchase a Family KickStart program and they're ready to start Monday. And then, so it's, say like over the weekend, they'll go to the grocery and then they come back and they want to put all their fresh stuff away. And they're like, my pantry's full of snack packs and this and that, whatever. So 2 things. One, you can take all those items, and if you have kids, oftentimes your kids' classroom will take those as like aftercare snacks. So, or to have in the classroom for when kids forget their lunches, they're shelf stable. So as long as they usually don't have nuts, if you're in a nut-free school, you're good to go there. So that's kind of like what I consider donating, bringing it back to the classroom. If you have a kid in sports, maybe kind of like bring it to practice for a couple of days and kind of get rid of stuff that way. So that's another option. Or save those for if your child is in sports, for like when it's your turn to bring all the snacks for the team. That's another way of using that. But I do not recommend throwing everything out because number one, you're going to find your pantry probably very, very empty. And there will be times where you have to go buy stuff because, apples and string cheese are just not what you want to bring to after the soccer game to feed everybody, right? So you kind of may want to keep that as a stash, but just not as readily available at eye level or, what I call like kid grab and reach level. So like if you open your pantry door, if it's right in front of you, it's out. With a lot of people, just completely eliminates, like sugary cereals and stuff. If it's going to, at the end of the day, if it's going to tempt you to eat it and break your efforts, then get rid of it. The $3 cereal box is just not worth it for the emotional toll that you'll have on going, gosh, I've been at this for 3 weeks and I just got this bad news at work and whatever. Everybody's in bed. It's 9:30 and here I'm sitting with like a bowl of Cocoa Puffs feeling terrible. I'm not saying that Cocoa Puffs are terrible. My husband loves them, but I'm just saying that like, ask yourself, how is eating this food going to make me feel about myself or about giving it to my family? And that should be your answer because you are important enough to consider your own feelings, this isn't about everybody else, okay? Eating healthy, changing up, improving your lifestyle is not just about you and your family's health. It's about also recognizing that you are important enough to make these changes. So I do recommend just assessing, how is this going to make me feel when I eat it? And then going from there. If you want to just throw it all out, throw it all out. You know, if you work in a, you know, you have an office and have coworkers, maybe pack all that stuff up and bring it to the lunchroom or whatever, and just put a sign on the table that says free, take me home. You know, maybe there are items you just no longer want to eat. So there's just a lot of ways to get creative before it ends up in the dumpster.
Okay, so all of those yummy foods. I'm still dying to know what your favorite recipes from Kickstart are.
Yeah, so a lot of people always ask me, like, how do you come up with the recipes for the program? And are they really your family's favorite? And the answer is yes. Like every recipe that I publish all online or in my cookbooks, there is the stuff that my family eats.
I've had this stuff at your house. I can vouch for that.
So I always say, you know, like for me, the greatest gift to my friends and family or my kids or the people in my community is these cookbooks that I have, because they're the things that I eat and enjoy and that I've put my effort and my love into testing and trying and then sharing them with you in printed format. So those really are the things that we eat. In the Family KickStart program, there's some recipes that are from the Grain-Free Meals cookbook, because those were just such winners. For the most part, they're the recipes that I continue to make for my family day in and day out. A lot of them are just kind of cleaned up the ingredients some more, but there were so many recipes that I like. That's why we have Kickstart 1 and Kickstart 2, because I didn't want like a program that was like so long, but we have so many recipes. So I created 2 30-day programs, you know, the first 30 days. And then a lot of people wanted to continue. And after the first year, they were like, we felt so great. Do you have any more recipes? So the second year we launched Kickstart 2, which is like breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks and treats. But anyway, so to answer your question, my favorite recipes, which I think everyone should try, are from dinner. We have the all meat and veggie chili recipe, and that's been visited, I think, now over 12 million times on my site. It is amazing. Like people have made this recipe and won like their town's blue ribbon chili cook-off and stuff, and they'll come back and tell me in the comments. That makes me so happy, because that chili recipe was created for my son, who couldn't eat beans, and I didn't eat beans either, because of intestinal issues. And I also wanted him to eat more vegetables, but he wouldn't eat vegetables. And the doctor ordered, like, okay, I need him to eat more vegetables. I need him to eat more protein, but stay away from these things. So I created that chili, which it's kind of vegetable chunky. So we used to play around with the texture, and we talked about this in a previous podcast on the texture issues. But anyway, so that chili recipe is amazing, and it's like a staple. Like people keep coming back to that recipe year after year, and they leave comments. So of course, that's one of my favorites. Number 2, the Mediterranean chicken is really good. I love the marinade. I love all the flavors to it. It's juicy, it's delicious, and it's not like baked chicken breast that's kind of dry and whatnot. So that's the Mediterranean chicken's really good. The lasagna stuffed spaghetti squash. Lasagna is something my family loves, but we try, you know, when we're doing Kickstart, we really try, you know, we cut out all the dairy and all the, you know, and lasagna tends to be really, really cheesy, but I kind of wanted to find like a happy medium with like everything that my kids loved about lasagna, and then adding more vegetables. So the spaghetti squash, I teach you how to cook it, many different methods, whether you have like in the microwave or the oven or the slow cooker, whatever time you have. And then you fill it with this meat sauce and a little bit of Parmesan cheese if you can have it on the top, and then you bake everything. I mean, like, so we call it share a boat at my house, because we'll make an entire spaghetti squash and then it's 2 halves. And so I'll share a boat or the spaghetti half with 1 or 2 of my kids, and then my husband will share it with somebody else. So like, it's really family style. So that's why I really love that recipe. And then the chicken and sausage jambalaya. I live outside of New Orleans, and jambalaya is like such a staple here. And when I would have people over, or it's just a great it feeds a crowd, even though I made the recipe for 4 people. So the jambalaya is definitely a must try. and it uses cauliflower rice. So you don't feel, because of all the seasonings and stuff, like you're eating vegetables at all. All right, so that was dinner. The lunch recipes, I love my Southern chicken salad. It is smooth, creamy. You don't have to chop at all. The food processor does everything for you. So the Southern chicken salad is a lunch favorite. Cobb salad, there is something about like the cheese, or if you leave it out, you leave it out. But like the ham, boiled egg, like all the toppings. I just love salads with a lot of toppings. So the Cobb salad is one of them I love. Burrito bowls, something that you'll see in Kickstart is that I reuse dinner leftovers into lunch, and I repurpose them. So burrito bowls are something that we make from time to time as well. That's another recipe that I love. And then stuffed sweet potatoes, like you literally will stuff a sweet potato with a lot of items. And if you're kind of thinking like, wait, but these things don't, my kid doesn't have a microwave. I show you how to pack them in a thermos. I show you, obviously if you're home, you can heat it up. So those are really awesome recipes on that front. For breakfast, this is perhaps like the most challenging when you have kids, how to make breakfast that they will love. So again, because I didn't take on the philosophy of forbidden items and foods, I incorporated and translated some of the things that my family loved, like muffins. Like I make the batter the night before. So I love the peaches and cream muffins because there's no cream, but they're clean and they're delicious, and my kids loved them, and they didn't even know that they weren't like made with real flour. The pancakes, we have 2 pancake recipes on Kickstart, and like you would just never know that they're made with approved ingredients, right? So you don't miss like the pancake house recipes, okay? No oatmeal. So a lot of us, like I love oatmeal in the morning, but I'm not always eating oats or grains. So the no oatmeal is made. It's hearty, it's filling, it's delicious. And I give you a nut-free version as well. So that is also another one of my favorites. And then finally for snacks or treats, I really love the 2-ingredient cookies because you literally like fold them in and there's a cookie. Okay, 3 if you throw in a few chocolate chips for here and there, or like chocolate shreds, but like for the most part, like you don't even need it. The pineapple whip is like, it was my husband's favorite since he was a kid from Disney World. So we cleaned it up ingredient wise, no added sugars, and it's amazing. And then another recipe that's hit the internet by storms and from one of my sites is the no bake blondies. These no bake blondies are amazing, and they're clean, and you really feel like you're eating a treat. So that's also another one of my favorite recipes. All right, so I gotta say, that now that you guys know now how I break down the planning and cooking of eating, cleaner in the family, the Family KickStart program. I do want to say that this season is really geared towards how do we make healthier changes in our food, but I couldn't let the season end, Paula, as you know, we talked about this, without talking about some physical. How do we get into a physical or exercise routine? How do we get started, whether you're short on time? Because a lot of moms, like they'll email me in our community and they'll go like, that's great, but you're always working out, which is, I'm not always working out, you guys. But I get a lot of emails asking, how do you find time to work out? How do you, I don't have a gym membership, or I'm so overweight, I just don't want to see people when I sweat. I'm embarrassed. So next week, I want to talk about simple changes that you can do to start moving. It's not about breaking a sweat or some high intensity workout. It's really about moving our bodies, because I do believe that our bodies they're designed to move. And so that's what we're going to talk about next week, how you can incorporate it. We're also going to talk about how to do that when you have kids, babies, and I'm not asking you to go buy a jogging stroller at all. I'm going to give you simple ideas and tips that you can do that incorporate your kids, so that when you look at all these recipes, when you look at the programs out there, and you start making those changes in food, I also want in your prioritizing yourself, I also want you to prioritize your physical and emotional health, because movement re-energizes, it gives you more blood flow through your body, it opens up appetite, not just for us but for our kids, so they're more receptive to eating new stuff and trying new things. So yes, so next week I'm so excited. Okay, I don't want to talk about that entire podcast right now, but I am so excited to kind of take a tiny pause on food and talk about physical exercise.
I can't wait for next week. It's going to be amazing. But right now, all of that food talk is making me hungry. So I'm going to go find one of those Kickstart recipes and make them for myself for today.
I know we've been recording today and you didn't even, you were like, oh, I was about to eat lunch. So you go eat lunch. And if you're listening or if you're watching, head over to MOMables.com/Family KickStart Program and just check out whether you purchase the program, which is not very, you have everything you need to get started, or you just decide to see what's included so you can go and put together something for yourself. I just want to encourage you to read my story. Like, I didn't always eat this clean. I've lost a lot of weight in the process. I've had 3 kids. So I just want to encourage you to check it out at MOMables.com, Family KickStart Program, and I'll see you guys next week.